Hey friends, I'm Jill Griffin. I'm the host of the Career Refresh podcast, and today I'm introducing you to my friend and former colleague, Sarah Mastracco. Sarah is an Emmy-nominated culinary producer and entrepreneur, and we discuss her journey going from high-pressure kitchens like Bobby Flay's Mesa Grill or Le Bernardin into being a culinary producer for Martha Stewart, Emeril, and she also produced the Martha Stewart Snoop Dogg that potluck dinner party. Yeah, Sarah was the producer. Sarah shares how she transitioned from wellness focused ventures into integrating food as medicine and her advice for navigating major career shifts. We also talk about why she transitioned from these high pressure kitchens, these in New York City, these top kitchens, and why she did this. We talk about the transferable skills from going from culinary arts into culinary producing and then eventually into entrepreneurship. We talk about the power of storytelling and how storytelling has been threading it all the way through all of these different experiences. And then ultimately, we talk about why she integrated the idea of culinary expertise into holistic wellness. She shares some insights that she had personally into why she made that switch. So, friends, dig in. You're going to love this. Sarah right now is running a 30-day challenge. It's 4 weeks. I will put all that information in the notes below. And if you are interested, you can go check that out and maybe be part of her next challenge. Dig in. You're going to love this episode. All right, friends, I'll see you soon. Sarah, welcome. I'm really glad that we're doing this today.
Me too. So good to see you.
Good to see you in this capacity.
Yes.
All right, so all of our longtime listeners know that I ask everyone this question, and that is, what did you think you wanted to be when you grew up?
Well, I studied psychology when I was in college, and I always was sort of drawn to learning about how people think and what makes people tick and all of those things. So I think I kind of thought I was going to go into something more psychology related.
Okay, all right. So tell us, take us through a bit of your journey, right? When you left school, left your undergrad degree, we know you
Yes.
obviously went to culinary school, and we're going to talk a lot about that today. But tell us a little bit about that journey, because there was a space between your undergrad and then coming back to your culinary work.
Yeah, so I went to school in Virginia. I went to University of Virginia, and after school, I decided with a group of friends to move to California. I had never been west of Colorado, so I don't really know. I can't really get into that mindset at this point, but it was amazing.
Right?
And once I got to California, I started working in nonprofit marketing. And I was sort of just going through life thinking, okay, this is something, but like it wasn't really sparking my passion. And so I'd always loved cooking. I always loved food. And especially out in San Francisco, it's such a focus. And it really sort of sparked my interest. So I decided to go to culinary school.
Hmm.
And then once I was in culinary school, I was also working while I was in school, and I was working on the line at a restaurant. And I just completely was like, this is it. Like,
It's amazing.
this is so crazy. I cannot believe how hard this job is, like for so many reasons. But the adrenaline was something that like really got me, and every day was something new, and I was learning a lot, and I just like fell in love with it.
Hmm.
So I decided to move to Italy and work there for a little bit.
I mean, that part's amazing. But what it was making me think as you were talking is when you see content like The Bear and shows like that.
Oh, I can barely watch it. I mean, sometimes I'm just like, I leave the room. I'm like, I can't, I can't.
That's amazing. I mean, not as a chef, but I also worked in hospitality for many years and understand that rush. And watching something like The Bear is equally fun, amazing, and also like, oh my God, I mean,
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone, no matter what you do, if you have that experience, that adrenaline and the pressure, and a lot of different careers experience those things. Um, so I think you're either drawn to that, or you're not. And so I just, at that time in my life, was really drawn to that. I just thought that that was super cool and fun.
Yeah, yeah. So then you find yourself looking for opportunities. You head to Italy. Was that for further education, or were you already starting like your internships?
So that was a what they call a stage. So it was after culinary school. I went and worked in Tuscany, and it was room and board.
That sounds
Um,
terrible.
I know. Well, in fact,
Awful, awful.
so I thought, I took in college a couple of courses in Italian, and I thought, oh, I'll be fine. And I arrived, and not one person spoke English. And so I'm now showing up for work, and we were literally like drawing pictures. They'd say something in Italian, go downstairs and get the side of pork. And I'd come up with like strawberries, because I just didn't know what they were saying. It was exhausting. I was totally in over my head with the
And of
language.
course, this is pre like Google Translate. You can't open
Oh,
an app on
oh
your
yeah, no, I was
phone.
writing faxes and sending them to my parents. I like didn't have a full conversation for 3 weeks. It was one word. I'd have a book. I'd look at, it
Right.
was something I did not expect. But the experience of the cooking and I studied a lot of Italian. And by the time I left, I did speak Italian. But
Oh,
the cooking was something like I had never experienced before. I mean, you literally have like the guy down the street bringing you a bag of truffles, the woman down the street bringing her fresh tomatoes from the garden. I mean, it was so like legitimately farm to table, and it was amazing.
that part's incredible. So for our listeners, while Sarah and I did not know each other, we both worked at Martha Stewart at the same time, where I was on the marketing and the business side, and she was obviously on the culinary and creative side.
Yes.
So take us then a little bit fast forward. So you leave Italy and you do what?
I moved to New York, and I was working for about 3 weeks at an Italian restaurant, and the management was not what I was expecting. And so I decided not to do that. And I was asking my parents, what do you think? They're like, well, there's this place that we went that was really good. This guy, Bobby Flay, he has a restaurant. I'm like, Bobby Flay, I've never heard of that guy before, but great that he has a good restaurant. So I went to Mesa Grill and met Bobby Flay and ended up working at his restaurant for about a year and a half.
Okay.
And I mean, that was insane. It was a very busy New York restaurant. We're doing 450, 500 covers a night with a team of about 5 people on the line. And that was, learning a lot about like moving quickly,
Yep.
being really organized, having a plan, all of those things.
Where was Bobby in his trajectory of like publicity and notoriety? Was he just
Yes,
starting to come into that at that time?
just starting. I had Food Network was like, this was in 1998.
Okay.
So he had a show, I think it was Grillin' and Chillin' or something. And I, like I said, I'd never watched any food TV. That wasn't something that was available to us when we were in culinary school as an option for a career.
Yeah.
Like that just didn't happen.
So how did experience and high intensity kitchens, right? Like Mesa Grill, which again, part, right, no longer in existence, or Le Bernardin, which I know you also worked at. How did it prepare you, you think, for some of your jobs later, where I would say more corporate jobs, even though you were still in the culinary science part of things?
Mhm.
Being in a Discovery, working for a Food Network, working for a Martha Stewart, right? How
Sure.
do you think those jobs and those transferable skills prepared you for that?
Well, one of the things that you really have to be in, like you say you said the bear, the organization is the most important part of the job, because once the service starts, you have to know what's going on. So when I started working for Martha Stewart, it was on her live TV show. And so live means you have 2 minutes to set up a demonstration, talk to the talent, talk to Martha, tell them what they're doing, and then they're starting. So we would do a segment that was 7 minutes long. She would do a segment on television live. We would rush in at 2 minutes, take everything off the counter, put everything that they needed to finish that demonstration, and do another one. So it was like so buttoned up, and you had to be really on top of your game, so that you're not standing there when the cameras start
Of
rolling.
that, right.
You
So
get
for
out of
our
there.
listeners, just to picture, basically when they're going to a commercial break is when
Yeah,
Sarah and her colleagues are like rushing onto the set
rushing,
in this house
running, lots
and
of
coming
running.
right back.
Yeah,
And the live
crawling off the
audience is
set.
probably laughing and being like, what the heck is happening?
Yeah, the live audience is like, whoa, this is crazy. But as if you're a viewer watching the TV show, you have no idea what just
It just
happened.
all seems very serene.
Yeah, you think, well, even maybe you think they had 10 minutes, but it's literally the commercial.
Exciting.
So that was that organization, making sure that you have everything, the scripting is right, you know what's coming up, you know what's next, preparation, all of those things. So that really did tap into a lot of the lessons that I learned working at restaurants. So that kind of, took that. Okay, so like what's next, you know?
And then did you enjoy, because I know between all the different places that you worked, did you enjoy more of like the food styling versus the food preparation, or were you doing both, or did you find yourself having a favorite between the two?
I really enjoy both. I mean, I love cooking. Food styling's fun. It's not, I wouldn't say that's my focus. I'm very much of like the operations, the logistics, like how are we going to make the X happen? What are all the steps that need to happen in order for that to really be tight and to work well? So I like the planning of it. It's almost like project based. So that then transfers into sort of what happened next after I left Martha, which was producing.
Mm.
So culinary producing, which it takes that production, say, setting up a segment or talking to talent, making sure they understand what happens, but it takes it a step further.
So if you were to sort of recap some of those skills that you then use, right? So still the organization, it sounds like storytelling, it sounds like
Mm-hmm.
prepping talent. What would be some of the other skills that you found yourself using when you're
So I feel like, yes, storytelling is one of them. Thinking about what would be interesting. Are we teaching anything? Why would somebody engage with this? You know, that kind of thing. So it's more of like you're thinking broader than you are just like, we're going to make, this dish, this whatever it is. It's like, why are we making this dish? What can we talk about that's interesting about this? What are some of the elements that maybe people don't know intuitively? So starting to, and it's more fun. It's more fun to just start telling the story
right?
about why you're doing something.
Right, because you can see in a restaurant, while there's an art and a passion to creating the experience for your customer, then the
Mm-hmm.
customer is kind of having a single experience. It's between them and the food that they're eating. Whereas when you're producing a show, you now need to think about the audience who is not tasting the food. So
Right.
how are you bringing them into that
Right.
conversation? Yeah,
Right. So
really
like,
interesting pivot in that, I think,
yeah, like what's captivating about food?
for
And
people.
so again, like I started, there was no food TV. We didn't have videos. We didn't have the, Instagram and TikTok and these things. So this is a new sort of thing that's emerged. And it's a big deal if you're in the food industry because it's a completely different career.
Right, right. Then preparing and working in a restaurant versus
Yeah,
now
which is what
also
I trained
finding,
for. Right,
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 right. And then finding the way that the content that you're creating is not only interesting, but how it moves across devices and screens. How is
right.
it now interesting on the large screen, we'll say in the main room in your house
Yeah,
versus, the 2-inch screen that you're holding and learning
right.
that. So how is that transition for you? What's notable about that for you?
Well, I feel like it like broadens the possibilities for me personally because I mean, I have a competitive nature too. And so I like to make sure that whatever I'm working on is it's not unlike working at a place like Le Bernardin or working for a Martha Stewart. Like I want to be with the best. I want to create things that are the best. And so when I'm on a project, I'm really focused on like what is going to be unique about this, what is unique about the talent that we're working with. And so I don't know, it just kind of like brings in maybe the psychology of like going way back. It's more layering of my skill sets.
Right.
I
You
guess.
know if in because I honestly don't know the answer to this. Do you know in culinary school and culinary training today, are they taking an eye towards this? So it's not just learning about the craft, but it's learning about the marketing, the promotion, and the business
Oh,
of it.
sure.
They are. Okay.
I
Really
mean,
interesting.
because food television and food media is just as important these days to someone who's in this culinary world as a restaurant is or anything else. And now with the crossover, so chefs are famous and because of this medium.
Right. Right. I guess I'm just thinking like no one taught you and me how to do it. We learned
No,
by doing it, messing up,
doing it. Yeah,
trying it. Oh, that worked,
yeah,
that didn't, right? Like in our Martha
sure.
Stewart days. So I just think the whole transition is super fascinating. So you've worked again with the top brands from Emeril, both Emeril for Roku, uh, Discovery Channel, Food Network. I would be remiss, and I know people would be like, how come you didn't ask her about Martha and Snoop's potluck dinner
Well, I
party?
was actually a culinary producer for that, and I went with Team Martha, but I was Snoop Dogg's culinary producer. So I was helping him. I was creating the recipes for that. I mean, he was essentially my talent. So he and I would, I'd be on helping him beforehand, telling him what to do and, working with his guests and working with Martha. And we had a blast. We had,
What was more, um, what was easier than you thought it would be in doing that work between Martha and Stu?
well, I mean, Martha was so supportive, honestly. And she wanted him to succeed. And, he's not a chef. And so to put them in that position where they're both cooking something, and then they turned it into a competition by the last
Right.
season. And so, she just was so supportive and she and I have such a nice relationship and we're friends. I mean, at this point, I've been working with her since 2007.
Yeah.
And I can really like say, hey, listen, I'm not sure that he's never made this before. So I'm going to tell you what he needs to do. And so you can help him when the cameras are rolling and you guys can do this together. And sure, great. And it was just like such a nice sort of teamwork situation.
Okay.
And I think that just makes everybody feel good and it's better on TV,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is part of it too.
Right. Right. With good TV. And then how would you compare something like, I know you also worked for Williams Sonoma, right?
Mhm.
So while they, if anyone's familiar with any of their physical magazine content or their online content, they are weaving in recipes right next to the various tools, we'll say. How did you find something like that working in something that's much more physical product focused
Yeah,
versus being in the end product, which, the TV show? What would be some of
sure.
the thoughts there?
So with Williams Sonoma, a lot of it was development
Hmm.
because they'd say, okay, we want to make finishing sauces. We like these flavor profiles. So there were three of us, would create finishing sauces based on what they wanted. And then we would have these big tastings and all of the executives would come down to our kitchen space and taste what we had made and then they would kind of zone in on what they wanted and then we would send that out to different vendors to try to recreate that. So that's kind
That
of how
is
they
so
work with
fun. Yeah.
product development. So product development was basically what that was, and then equipment testing. So loaf pans, this, that. So you would also be creating recipes. So it's a lot of that was development,
Okay.
and learning how to write a recipe.
Okay.
I
Okay.
mean, like these things that have all become a part of producing.
Right. I mean, it's again, it's so fascinating, and sitting next to it through the marketing and business lens from my time at Martha, I saw a lot of this, but having
Mhm.
not, I didn't do it, right? I mean, I
Right,
in my house, but I wasn't cooking at
right.
that level. So for anyone that's listening, that's thinking about even a career change and wants to get into culinary development or
Mhm.
even the production side, like what advice would you give them?
I mean, a lot of people ask me, should I go to culinary school? And sure, it's an option, but also start cooking,
Mm.
and start developing your own recipes. See how that feels. read recipes. And, if culinary school is great, but if you want to really know how to cook, you kind of have to work at a restaurant.
Yeah.
You have to,
Okay. The record restaurant.
or cook for yourself. But then if you really want to get into it, you got to do it. You got to have to put in that kind of work, in my opinion, at some point, even if it's just short term or whatever, because the methodical, the repetition, the learning, the organization, seeing how that works is crucial when you're talking about doing the next step, which is, whether you're developing or doing whatever you're doing. It's an important step.
An important step. Okay. Okay. And then, yes, obviously, if you are skilled on the production side because you have a firsthand experience and knowledge of using social media and,
Mhm.
photography, all of that will help too.
Sure.
With the
But if
basics,
you want to be
the
like
blocking and tackling,
hands-on cooking
you
and
need to know the craft.
developing, that's more. I mean, there are a million different ways to get into the
Sure.
culinary field at this point. But if you want to do this kind of work like that I've been doing, I have found that the people who have even the smallest amount of restaurant experience get it at a different level.
Yeah.
They just do. It's
Yeah.
just a different beast. So it doesn't mean you can't do it at all. And it doesn't mean you can't do it really well, because some people like just totally get it. But it is a nice little thing to have
To
if
have
if
that.
you can do it. Yeah.
Okay. So, taking us forward, can you walk us through your journey of integrating the culinary expertise with
Hmm.
holistic wellness? Because where
Sure.
you've taken it today is what, you and I have been talking about more recently, and it's
Yeah.
super exciting. And I'd love
Yeah.
to take us through that.
Okay, so while I was working in TV, I was also sort of gravitating towards wellness. I went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition.
Right. We both went there. That's funny. Same
Yes, so
time.
that was that was the online nutrition course that you do. I think it was an 18-month program. Super interesting, learning a lot about just wellness and how food is related, to your overall well-being. And so after that, I also did a Well Coaches school of training, which is really about coaching and
Mhm.
how you sort of, active listening and things about talking to people around their diets and their habits. In the meantime, I was still working on TV shows and always kind of having this feeling. And I've written like, I don't know, 15 different ideas about how do I transition from what I'm doing to this wellness and cooking.
Mm.
Finally, when I moved to the North Fork, I moved here in 2020 from New York. And here we have access to local farms. I mean, everything is just like grown here. And
Right.
so I started cooking differently. Another thing that happened is I did a wellness challenge.
Mm.
And this randomly like triggered something in me as much as I've been around food. I mean, I've been cooking for 25 years or something professionally. And so when I did this challenge, I realized, okay, I've been saying I'm eating a certain way, but when I'm actually like responsible for clicking a box about really what my habits are, I'm not doing what I think I'm doing.
Hmm.
And
What
there
were
was
you doing?
Well, it was something about this accountability
Okay.
that changed my viewpoint, because once I realized, I think, oh, I eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. Okay. And then I'd say, did I eat fruits and like, did I actually eat a lot of fruits and vegetables today? Or did I just like skip a meal and eat something like, am I really doing this, or is this in my head? And once I had to be accountable and say, I actually did do this or didn't do that, it made me really realize that I didn't have a lot of control over how I was eating or what I was eating.
Huh.
Like I didn't have the habits developed
Right. Right.
around my day-to-day diet.
And when you started to then make those habit changes, what did you notice?
Just a complete transformation in my body, and I had a knee pain that wouldn't go away, and then all of a sudden the knee pain's gone. Like I started paying attention to also like my movement.
Mm,
And so part of this challenge was you had to exercise 10 minutes a day and
okay.
stretch 10 minutes a day.
Okay.
So doing that, I'm like, oh, wait, I actually don't do this either. I thought I did. It was almost just those little things. And so it just triggered a thought for me, and it had already started, but I really like this idea of transitioning my knowledge about food and cooking and trying to help teach people and help people cook more with whole foods and see how that feels and just be more instructional about it. Because a lot of times people are like, I don't know how to make those things. I don't know how to cook grains.
It seems hard
I
that,
don't know how to make vegetables taste delicious.
mm,
So I don't. So it's like, how do I use that skill set that I have of like making food taste good and look pretty and bringing it to other people's tables?
mm,
And so that was sort of this idea. And long story short, I met my neighbor who is wonderful. She has a daughter the same age as my daughter, and she's a doctor, and she is a holistic medical doctor. And we started talking about something. She had a culinary medicine series going on here in the North Fork and asked me to do a hands-on cooking class. Once we started talking about that, we started taking it a step further. Like, what if we could get a community together to do a challenge together? And so we started creating this idea around nourishment and these other elements: movement, rest, reflection, and connection, and saying, how can we help people engage with these things for even if it's a short time,
mm.
and see if it will help them feel better. And so we created a platform where people can go on for 30 days and do a challenge. And as a part of that, I said, well, let me go one step further and make it even easier for people to eat well. And so I created a prepared food company called Flavor Fork. And that helps support people in a whole foods diet, and just helps bring delicious, healthy items conveniently to your kitchen.
So there's so many nuggets of what you've said, but for our listeners who are thinking about career transition, I would love for you to think about and share with us going from being an employee, and even
Mm-hmm.
though you were technically contract in some positions, it was working
Sure.
for someone else. It was
Of course. Yeah.
employee-like mindset, right? Versus doing it for yourself. What were some of the biggest things that you noticed in those differences?
Uh-huh. One thing is I'm wearing a lot of hats that I've never worn before. I mean, a lot goes into launching a business.
Yes.
Things that you think you knew and things that you just didn't know. I mean, it, runs the gamut, but it's so fun because I get to create what I want. What's important to me is what matters. And I think that that's those things that are important to me are going to, if I present it correctly, be important to other people and really make an impact. And that is something that is really important to
Yeah.
me. And so that I already knew. I've done the work. I've done a lot of, just like self-exploration and writing things down and like, what is my life view? What is my work view? How do these things connect? And I do that a lot. I try to go back to that every year and update it and just keep evolving,
Mm.
but keeping in mind what my strengths are, like keeping in mind what I love to do and my passion, and then saying, what can I do that is, one step further, like towards what I really want out of this career.
Okay. So I would imagine, in addition to a lot of those mindset related tools of like really reflecting on your values, your goals, what do you want your day-to-day life to look like?
Mm-hmm.
For a mother, how are you present for your husband, your family, but still running a business and all those various things that
Yes.
juggle? But I would imagine then going back to some of your previous experience, the operations experience, the organization experience, the strategic experience, the
Mm-hmm.
listening, all of those different things are still being used and they're transferable skills that you need
So much.
absolutely in all of this. I think
Yes.
it's a really important note because I hear from a lot of people that they find it's hard to make a transition. Now, your transition went from being working for somebody else to working for yourself, But the idea that I could be in one field and want to go into another and really finding the way to have those transferable skills shine through.
Right.
Because to your point, you're the business owner now. So you're
Hmm.
definitely flexing additional muscles or using in a different way, in addition to still being the culinary expert.
Right. Right.
Really.
The culinary expert is who I am. That is my, sort of, that's what I'm bringing to the table. I've done the work.
Right.
I know what I'm talking about, and that's feels great.
Awesome.
So that part, like I feel like it's the other things about building a business that I'm working through, and everything is it's happening in real time. It's evolving. And
Yeah.
so I just need, and I'm really cognizant about being open to all kinds of feedback. I'm, I'm open to pivoting. I'm open to, expanding sort of my mindset about what this is.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's super fun. I mean, I'm having a really good time with it. So that's another thing. This is what I've always wanted.
Mm.
So like I don't want it to bog me down, and I don't want it to ever make me feel too stressed out or like this isn't fun, because I built this. Like I'm building something that I wanted.
Yeah, it's what I'm just even watching your face for anybody that's listening and not watching the video, you see your face and just like there's a smile, there's a brightness there that you're doing this, you're also accountable. So if something is not working, you're
Yeah,
the one who's accountable to like, okay, how am
100%.
I going to do this differently? Or
Right.
what needs to change about this, which
Right.
is a high level of, self-awareness in addition to the business efficiency of making those changes.
Hmm.
When we think about the work you're doing now, I want you to go deeper and explain to everybody about One Health and also Flavor Fork.
Okay.
So let's do that first. Tell everybody both about, because I'm a huge fan of the food out of Flavor Fork and then
Thank you.
also One Health. So explain to them what those are.
Okay. So One Health is a platform that sort of encompasses holistic wellness, lifestyle medicine, and the culinary arts. And so that is something that Dr. Emily Ann McDonald and I created to have a place where people could come and be informed. So a lot of it is educational, and a lot of it is about answering the question like, why should I do this?
Mm.
And that's Emily. She has, I mean, even a very short time, I have learned so much from her. And I learned so much about microbiome and gut health and all of these things. What do you do about when you're in menopause or postpartum? Or it's a lot of women's, not issues, but women's health
Related.
related
Yeah.
things that food can actually make a huge impact on,
Mm.
and lifestyle can make a huge impact on. And so it's not always about like, what's the medication that's going to help me feel better? The medication often is food
It's food.
and lifestyle. And
Yes.
so, helping, and what we're really kind of zoning in on action oriented prescription for how do you make change? Because
Mm.
it's not easy. I
No,
mean,
it's not easy.
it's not
Yeah.
easy.
Well, you know how hard it is to change your own behavior, and
Yeah,
you have your own awareness. So now you're helping somebody else change their behavior. It's not easy.
right.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing is, like, I'm evolving, and this has been great because even we've done now 3 challenges. So a challenge is a 30-day challenge where you try to eat a whole foods diet as much as possible. You 15 minutes of exercise a day. You determine amount of sleep that you want to get and try to aim for that. You make connections. So making sure that you're, reaching out to friends, family, maybe going on a walk with someone, just thinking outside of the box on ways to stay connected to people, and then reflecting and thinking about gratitude and, ways that even if it's a hard day, what is the one thing I could be really grateful for today? And if you do that for a month, you no matter who you are, you're going to feel a little bit better than you
Yes.
were like beforehand.
So you've run 3 of the challenges in our local community. Can someone also join if they're remote, or do they need to be?
Absolutely. This is actually an app
Okay.
that anyone can join. So my sister in Richmond has done it a couple of times. friends in California. This is an app.
Everywhere.
Anybody can
But
do that.
wonderful. So we will put all of that information in the show notes so
Yes,
people can
yes.
absolutely join that. But what's been some of the feedback? I mean, again, you've run this now 3 times. What's been
Yep.
some of the most notable pieces of feedback that you've heard?
So some of the feedback, a lot of people have actually said that they didn't understand how easy it would be if you just take little steps every day. So one of the things that has happened to most of the people that really do it is they say I've been trying to lose weight. That's
Hmm.
one thing. And that's just like so concrete. I want to lose weight. So the weight comes off. But one thing that happens along with that is the grace that people are giving themselves. So like I've been beating myself up over being on like, I need to go on a diet and lose weight. That's not what this is. They're like, it didn't even feel like I was on a diet. It just felt like I was giving my body things that made it feel better. And by doing that, all this other stuff started happening.
Mm.
And so it's kind of like it's not, it's more about grace and kindness towards you. It's almost like you're doing yourself a favor
Yeah.
for a month. And that's the feedback we're getting. People are like, I just feel calm. I feel less stressed out and like I'm beating myself up less
Okay. Okay.
about the little things.
So what's interesting, just as you're talking, it's making me even think about any of our listeners that are looking for new professional opportunities, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're putting the pressure on yourself, or maybe it's real, you do need to find a job,
Mm-hmm.
but you're only thinking about the end result of I need to find the job. In your case,
Right.
I need to lose the weight versus what are the things that you might do along the way, right? You're walking more, you're exercising, you're connecting. In this case, if you're finding a job, maybe you're expanding your network, maybe you're approaching looking for a job in a different way. It's
Right.
measuring what I'm hearing you say is almost it's like measuring the smaller steps that are of equal
Yes.
importance as much as, yeah, you want the end result, we get it, but
Right.
it's the smaller steps along the way that's
Yep.
what's going to keep you motivated to keep doing that.
Right. It's incremental change. It's incremental change because that's how it sticks.
Yeah.
If it's too big, it feels too big
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
times. You're like, I'm doing this thing. It's going to be over in 5 days. I can't wait to go back to doing what I was doing before.
Going back to my old, which again is not creating
Right.
sustain.
It's kind of like not the point. And it may take a long time. It may take, maybe you just focus on the one thing. So for this next challenge, we're really going to do a deep dive on nourishment
Mm.
and think about things like little things that you can do, one new recipe a week or cleaning out your cabinet, something like that. Like, what are actionable steps that I can take to kickstart a change? And so I think what you're saying is exactly true. It's the same goes for anything you're doing. I mean, if you're talking about your career, like, is it taking an online class? Is it watching videos that are inspirational? Is
Right.
it talking to people, like networking? What is the little
What are
thing
the
that you can
smaller
do?
little things that you can measure and then see you're making
Right,
progress or you're
right.
not?
And it
Because
should
that
be different than what you've done in the past.
exactly. Right.
So
Right.
different so that it's triggers a new response
Yes. Yes.
because we've all done the thing where it's like, I'm just going to go back to looking at, jobs online or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
And great, do that too, but maybe add the one other thing, that incremental change.
I love it. Tell them about Flavor Fork.
Okay, so Flavor Fork is my baby. Not my actual baby, but
Right. There's an actual baby, but
there's an actual baby.
we're
That's
not talking about her right
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah. So Flavor Fork is a company that I created. I'm doing weekly prepared meals, grains, soups, salads, and sauces. So it's kind of all those little things that are the convenience meals. You can add proteins on, you can do whatever, but you order online, pay online, come pick it up. I have a barn and I've got a cute little refrigerator in there. So I cook on Mondays and people come and pick it up on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And it's just amazing. And I'm working with local farms and they're sending me their lists of, the produce that's coming up this week. And
So that you
So
can weave that into what you might be making so that it's
yeah, so I'm like, it's
regional and local. I love it.
exactly. So
So
that's
for
how I'm
any of
designing my
our
menu.
listeners that aren't in the area, you also have shelf stable product that you're
I
making.
do.
Yeah.
Yep. I have a chili crunch a chili peppercorn crunch that is Jill has tried it.
Ridiculously delicious. I bet it's like on my oatmeal. It goes on
Yeah,
everything.
it's a little, it's
So
got,
good.
it's the umami that gets in your head.
Yeah.
So I'll be shipping that. Yes. So that starts shipping November 1st.
Okay. Just in time for
And you can order
holidays.
that online on my website. So that's
Beautiful.
exciting. And yeah, it's really about, how can I create something that makes eating healthy more fun and
Yeah.
delicious? It shouldn't be boring food. It should not feel like a daunting task. And I know it's not. And so it's just about sharing that information and helping people, feel better is really what the
Mhm.
bottom line is.
Yeah.
So
So when you're
using,
looking ahead between One Health and Flavor Fork, how have you thought about how you want to continue to evolve those two brands?
yes, I have.
Share
So,
them.
so Emily and I have been talking about
And Emily is Emily McDonald, who is your business partner within One Health.
with One Health. So we are working on a book and we're going to use the challenge because we are populating it with so much information and it's a combination of sort of this like lifestyle medicine perspective and delicious recipes. And so bringing those two together and publishing a book is something that we're working on.
I love it.
And with Flavor Fork, I mean, I have this idea that why couldn't this work in other communities where I have a set of recipes and there are chefs in other locations that could also participate and cook those meals for people in their community.
So almost like a could be like a licensed model where someone that wants to
Right.
start this, you've already done a lot of the pre-thinking for them and they can implement what you've done and then
Exactly.
potentially use their own local ingredients in different ways.
Exactly.
I love both of that.
Yeah.
Okay, last few questions, which are more of like rapid fire. What advice would you give to someone, right? You went from someone else giving you a paycheck to now you have to create your own. And
Mhm.
anybody that's thinking about that, that's like amazing and can be scary. So, what
Yes.
advice would you give to people who might be thinking about that?
I would say the one thing that's happened with me is I've put the blinders on and I've tried to just stay really focused. A lot of people will say, well, you have to do this first, or you have to do that first, or you shouldn't do that because. And I'm just
That's
trying
what my
to,
brain goes, thank you for sharing.
yeah. So it's the blinders and just putting my head down and doing the work.
Mhm.
And because a lot of preparing is talking about it, planning it, etc. And then when it comes time to do it, just do it. And it's
But to get super tactical on you, did you have a number in mind that, okay, when I save X amount of dollars, that will give me a runway to do it? Like, that's, I think, you don't have to share your numbers. I'm just saying,
yeah.
but like, did you think about some of that stuff
I
also?
did. I did think about that kind of stuff, but that also slowed me down, quite honestly.
Oh, tell us more about that.
So it slowed me down because it was a roadblock and it felt like I know what I want to do, but if I'm just going to wait for this number to hit, I'm never going to do it. I'm going to always think of an excuse. Something's going to keep me from doing it. And I'm done with that. I'm so tired of it. I was
So
so
what I'm
tired of it.
hearing you say is you just decided to bet on yourself. You're like, you know what? I'm
Yes,
doing my
I
excellence and
did.
my
I
gift
just,
for 20, would you say 20 some odd years as culinary expert? Like I'm betting on myself. I'm just gonna
yeah, I'm
amazing.
just going to do it. I'm done. I'm done with not doing it.
Okay. So a question I often ask people is like, how do they keep their career fresh? That's what this entire conversation has been, is like how you
Yes.
reinvent it.
Mhm.
Absolutely. But are there media or content or inspiration practices, anything that you can share with people that you're reading or doing right now that are giving you inspiration?
Well, a lot of building One Health was about finding things that motivate change and motivate people to feel good, eat better, move, all of these things. And so honestly, like there's a lot to motivate us out there in the world. And so trying to listen to podcasts, your podcast, and other career podcasts and things that like really teach you sort of about changing
Mhm.
careers and changing attitudes and changing trajectory and things like that. So amping myself up to do the thing. And that's part of it, being your own champion, but also listening to what people who have done this before or who are motivating, what do they have to say? So
And
that's,
see what applies and what you're like, nope,
yeah,
that's not going to work for me.
yeah.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. How do you structure your day now that the time is yours versus reporting to somebody else?
Okay. So it's very, very much of like a producer's mindset. I have days that I know I have to do this in the morning, that's next, because I'm cooking everything too.
Yeah.
So it's like, what am I going to do for the week? Making sure that the website reflects that, taking orders, connecting with farmers and shopping, cooking, it's that same sort of, so every week is a project,
Yes. Yeah.
which is
Yeah. No,
perfect
I
for
like,
me.
but again, it keeps it I mean, for my brain, it keeps it fresh. It's like, okay, so
Exactly.
we're moving into the next season. What's fresh? What am
Yes,
I going to make? How am I using recipes? How am I keeping them easy and simple for people to enjoy
exactly.
them? And I'm sure there's probably some ingredients that you need to think about, obviously, with people with allergies and doing all of that. So it keeps it really fresh and like learning different things. I love it.
Exactly. And social media, videos. So I'm gearing up to shoot a series of videos as well. So sort of these like other ways of getting out there and presenting what I'm doing. And
Love it.
so that's like a whole nother level, and that's something I feel great about because I have that experience.
Yeah.
So it's, transitioning that. And I like that. I like using media.
Enough.
So that's another part of this.
Awesome. Awesome. Sarah, this was so helpful. I think any of our listeners that are thinking about career change, whether it's in the culinary arts or in another field, just hearing kind of how you went about it, how you use transferable skills, and how you are creating what's next is really helpful.
Thank you,
Anyone
Jill.
have questions, you can email us at hello@jillgriffincoaching.com. We will put all of Sarah's information in the show notes so you can get that super yummy chili crunch, which I'm completely addicted to. And
Thank you,
Sarah,
Jill.
thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. This was fun.